and we're going to get a little controversial for just 15 minutes, and then I get to leave after I ruffle everyone's feathers. So I'm currently doing a certification program in integrative and functional medical nutrition therapy. And what I've been learning for the past 8 months has blown me away. There is so much we're not taught as dietitians in our conventional training that I feel like there's this whole other world of nutrition out there that we're not a part of, that we're not really tapping into. And so much of it is biochemical-based information. You know, it's not just this hoity-toity stuff. Somebody think, well, it's not going to be science-based or evidence-based. It's extremely evidence-based. And a lot of these functional practitioners that I'm in contact with have been talking about the microbiome, talking about different hot topics now. They've been doing this for the last 10, 20 years. So they're really cutting edge, they're really ahead of the curve, and I feel like our profession is going to fall behind if we don't catch up with functional medicine. So that's just kind of my take on this. But to get started, I'm going to talk about fats from this functional perspective and really talk about heart disease, saturated fat, cholesterol, you know, who really is the bad guy in all this, and are we going after the wrong target? So the biggest controversy and what really differentiates, I think, conventional from functional medicine is that mainstream medicine has been telling people to eat less fat for so long. Right? Eat less fat, cut your animal fats down, less saturated fat, and what we've also been told is to replace those fats with vegetable oils. I still remember my mother in the 80s using Crisco, using corn oil, right, because she was told butter is bad. We switched to margarine. And there's some hospitals that are still using margarine, as scary as that is. Right? So the problem with this is that these vegetable oils, as we know now, are extremely inflammatory. All polyunsaturated fats are unstable, meaning because of those double bonds, they will expose easily to oxygen, they become oxidized, and therefore free radical damaging and inflammatory. So we really did a disservice to people by telling them to eat not just less fat, but to eat these omega-6 PUFAs. The other issue is that most people also replaced those fats with more carbohydrates, more sugar. Our fat intake actually dropped from 43% to 33% since the 80s, and it was even higher before then. If you look throughout history, we have been eating a high-fat diet for a long time. Prior to the 1920s, what were we mostly eating? What kind of fats? Animal fats, right? Our grandparents, our great-grandparents were eating the whole animal. They were eating butter. They were eating whole milk. There weren't low-fat options, and yet heart disease was actually very rare. So this is where the big controversy lies. One myth I just kind of want to get out of the way is that all fats will make you fat, and that's a huge myth. Fats are not all created equal, the same way we talk about different sugars, different proteins. We don't do that enough with fats. We don't specify which saturated fats are the bad ones, or which ones we want to get in. So yes, fat is very energy dense, we know that, common sense in this room. But it's not always about calories, especially when we have patients that are insulin resistant. 60% of our population has diabetes, prediabetes, or some form of insulin resistance. So we have to think about how is our food affecting the hormones in our body, and how is that affecting weight gain? Insulin in particular I'm going to focus on, because I don't have time to talk about all of them. But insulin is definitely responsible for that midsection weight gain. So when we're eating higher carbohydrates, refined or non-refined, we're often stimulating an insulin response. That can trigger higher appetite, more sugar cravings, more midsection weight gain, converts carbs to fats easier. And while insulin stays high and doesn't return to baseline, makes weight loss very difficult. Okay? So fats, why I love them so much, is because they don't have an insulin. They don't have that response that carbs do on insulin. They're actually very insulin neutral. We can eat fats, the good fats, and not trigger an insulin response at all. And that's why people are losing weight on high-fat diets now. Myth number 2, saturated fat causes heart disease. Some of you look at me like, not all saturated fat causes heart disease. Again, this is where we have to talk about different key players in the saturated fat family. If that stick of butter came from a grass-fed cow, no, it's not going to cause heart disease. If it was from a conventionally raised cow with GMO feed, yeah, it's probably going to be an inflammatory fat and cause a lot of problems. That cupcake, what we call a sweet fat, that combination of fat and sugar, yes, that's definitely going to cause heart disease and wreak havoc on our metabolic system. But fats by themselves, especially good quality fats, good quality saturated fats, are not the enemy. So let's talk a little bit about different players in this saturated fat family. We forget, even though we were taught this in our conventional training, we forget that they are saturated fats. How many of you remember learning about butyric acid? Short chain fatty acids, how wonderful they are for the colon, and they're protective and they're great. And we were told we just get them from fermenting fibers, right? We weren't always told that they actually come from butterfat. Butyric acid is found in butterfat from cows, and it's especially high in grass-fed butter. Capric acid is another one. Think cap for Capricorn, coming from buttermilk from goats. Okay. These short-chain fatty acids are antimicrobial. They help strengthen the immune system. And as we learned in school, they're wonderful for colon health. Medium-chain triglycerides, medium-chain fatty acids, these are a little bit bigger, 8 to 12 carbons. These are what we find in coconuts. I don't know if anyone's talked about coconut today, but it's awesome. All right. Lauric acid and stearic acid, both found in coconut oil. What makes coconut oil so special is that it doesn't need bile acids to be processed and absorbed. It actually can bypass all of that because only long chains really need the bile. So this is literally like food for your mitochondria. It gets burned more efficiently. It actually helps increase thermogenesis, meaning it can help with weight loss. There are plenty of books coming out. There are actually some already published and more coming out on basically the topic of eat fat, get thin. Dr. Hyman has a book coming out at the end of February basically called Eat Fat, Get Thin. And he talks about the benefits of some of these saturated fats in the diet and how they really do increase our metabolism, keep you more satisfied, and have all these wonderful benefits like antimicrobial properties, etc. So, we don't have to give up the butter, we just have to get it from the right source. Right? More benefits of saturated fat, again, coming from grass-fed cows. I'm not talking about conventional dairy. Constitutes at least 50% of cell membrane, so we do need saturated fat in the body. We learned this, guys, but we forget. It's vital for our nervous system. The majority of our brain is made of fat. Lowers lipoprotein a, which is the lipoprotein that's most associated with heart disease. So yes, there are some lipoproteins that contribute to heart disease, but we have to, again, differentiate those. Omega-3 fatty acids are actually better retained in the tissue when the diet has saturated fat in it. Creates better structure for that cell membrane. There are even some long-chain fatty acids that we find around the heart that are very important for heart function as well. So we can't just completely take saturated fat out of the diet. We need to tell our patients which kind of saturated fat they need to be getting. And what about cholesterol? We've been misled here as well. Cholesterol isn't always the villain. Cholesterol serves a purpose in the body, actually several, right? And we learned all this too. We need cholesterol for that cell membrane integrity. We need it as a precursor to hormones. We need it as a precursor to vitamin D. So many patients are getting put on statins or getting on these low-fat diets, and their cholesterol is dropping too low. And now I'm seeing middle-aged men in my practice that have low testosterone. Their bodies are changing in composition, but they're getting man boobs. They're losing hair because their testosterone is dropping because they've been on a statin so long and their hormones are just so low because they don't have the cholesterol to make it. So we can't just drop cholesterol once it gets high. We have to think about why is this cholesterol high? Let's get to the root of why is this person's cholesterol high. Another issue or role of cholesterol is that it's an antioxidant. Most of us maybe weren't taught that at all. But when I see high cholesterol in my practice, I think, where's the free radical damage? Where is the inflammation? Cholesterol is actually coming to the rescue most of the time. and we're blaming it as the culprit. That's like getting robbed, calling the police, and then blaming the police for robbing you. That's not what's happening. Okay? Is there such a thing as bad cholesterol? Yes, of course. But we have to find more specific lab markers, right? Not many clinicians are looking at the particles in the blood. I don't know if anyone's talked about particles because I got here late, but there are small, dense LDL particles that are very problematic. There's the larger, fluffier ones that really aren't problematic at all. But many clinicians just see high LDL and immediately start putting people on a low-fat diet, prescribing statins, and we don't really know, is that the right solution? There's another marker that's more new, that is oxidized LDL. LabCorp will test for oxidized LDL. Not many people are ordering this lab, but that's really the culprit. Is once this fat gets oxidized, rancid, becomes inflammatory, cell destroying. That's the problem. But we need to figure out: does this person really have bad LDL, or is their LDL benign? We need to be careful with damaged cholesterol. So just like PUFAs, fats, cholesterol can be damaged as well. Exposure to heat, light, oxygen often creates these oxidized fats, which then become inflammatory. Oxidized or damaged cholesterol is usually found in powdered eggs, powdered milk, which is added to reduced fat milks. So how long have we been recommending 1%, 2% fat-free milk? And that might be one of the issues that's actually increasing your patient's cholesterol. You're giving them a damaged fat. I know, just ruffling so many feathers right now. So let's bring back some grass-fed whole milk. If your patients tolerate milk, if they enjoy milk, if it's not an allergen or an intolerance issue, it's probably the most unprocessed form of milk that we have. Okay. Conventional milks, no good. These cows are getting GMO feed, we have pesticides, hormones, antibiotics. It's going to wreak havoc, it's going to raise inflammatory markers, it's a problem. Okay, so I'm not talking about conventional dairy. I'm not talking about 1-2% or fat-free, again, because of that milk powder that's added for the body and the texture. I'm talking about what our grandparents and great-grandparents drank. Just grass-fed whole milk. If you're still not convinced, I decided to break down the benefits and all the fats in whole milk for you, so that you can see it's really not that bad. Don't be scared of it. So the fat from whole milk in an 8-ounce glass, about 25% of it's coming from a mono unsaturated source, the kind that we find in olive oil. We all love olive oil. 56% is coming from saturated fat, so let's break that down. About 6 to 7% of that is a short chain, which we now know is great. Almost half of that saturated fat is medium chain, similar to what we get in coconut oil. We are also getting omega-3 fatty acids from this grass-fed cow milk because they're eating grass and they're getting the omega-3s from the grass. It also contains some conjugated linoleic acid, CLA, which helps our immune system, heart, as an anti-inflammatory fat as well. So what is causing heart disease? In the functional world, we're looking at hydrogenated fats, which I think we can all agree on, right? Trans fats are evil, they always have been, nothing good comes from them, just get them out of the diet. Rancid vegetable oils, I think we all can agree on this as well. We still have way too much rancid vegetable oil in our diet, right? People are often shocked when I show them that Sabra hummus that they love is made with soybean oil. Their 100% Oro wheat bread has soybean oil. There are inflammatory oils in our healthy foods, and people aren't always aware of that. So these things are sneaking in. It's not just I'm cooking with corn oil. We got to start reading ingredients lists. Refined sugars and carbohydrates, extremely inflammatory, especially when it's combined with fat. Think of a donut. Extremely inflammatory. Mineral deficiencies, especially magnesium, iodine, vitamin deficiencies, especially those that promote or enhance immunity, and antioxidants that can reverse some of that free radical damage that's really causing our cholesterol to increase. So it's really a combination of all these things. I do want to touch on the PUFA family, the polyunsaturated fats real quick before I jet out. Not all omega-6s are evil, right? They are in our food supply because they become damaged. They become process damage, etc., now inflammatory. But there are some omega-6s that I do give my patients. GLA, or gamma-linolenic acid, has actually some great anti-inflammatory properties. One of them is evening primrose oil. You may have heard of it. You probably have no idea it was an omega-6. But it had any real benefit. I use it with my eczema patients. It's been used for PMS, menopause. The other great one that I love is borage oil, which is a more potent GLA, and I use that with my rheumatoid arthritis patients. It actually works wonderful for their joint inflammation. And I usually do that in combo with omega-3s. Omega-3s, I think we can agree we love. They're great, they're wonderful, lots of good info on omega-3s coming out for years. However, what I really stood out to me in my classes was that I knew just enough about omega-3s to make me dangerous. I was recommending omega-3s left and right without really knowing the full story behind them, or without really thinking enough about how unstable omega-3s, just like omega-6s, can be. Right? They're still a PUFA, they're still multiple double bonds, they still can be damaged and oxidized very easily. So looking at some of our plant sources, think about flaxseed and flaxseed meal. A lot of us buy that already ground up because we don't want to take the time to grind it ourselves. We put it in the cupboard. It might take us months to go through that bag. And what we're using is really now a damaged omega-3. That's no better than the vegetable oil or the omega-6s in our processed and packaged food. It's still going to be inflammatory. So what I recommend to my patients is buy the whole seed, keep it in the refrigerator, grind up what you need, and try to use it within a couple days. Most people aren't going to do that, so I just say use chia seeds. They're much less high maintenance. Canola oil, also very unstable. Most of it is GMO, so I don't recommend it. And it's not, we've been recommending it to cook with, and no, it's not a good oil. Okay. Again, it's going to go rancid quickly. It's just going to promote inflammation. And what about omega-3 supplements? We love recommending omega-3 supplements. But are they a good quality supplement? One easy test to do is to open the bottle and stick your nose in it. If it smells like fish, if it gives you fish burps, if they're masking it with lemon or mint or orange, that's a bad sign, right? It's a rancid fish oil. That's not going to help someone's inflammation. It's going to make it worse. So this is where I've now been taught to only use very high professional grade fish oil that's very stable, that has the research behind it, and I actually do call companies now and ask for their rancidity tests. Show me your rancidity studies. I want to know not just the purity of your fish oil, but is it rancid or not? These are called TOTOX levels. If I call a rep and they have no idea what I'm talking about, I just say thank you and I hang up, because they probably have never run those tests in their life. The next time you're at Fancy or you're seeing these reps from NatureMade or whatever company it is, ask them for their rancidity studies on their fish oil. Okay? We need to make sure we're promoting high quality fish oil and not just anything off the shelf. So just to kind of summarize, saturated fat from good sources is really not the problem. Cholesterol is a necessary lipid in the body. We can't forget that. We can't try to lower it so much that we start taxing the body in other ways. And in a functional perspective, anything less than 150 is too low. Butter and whole milk from grass-fed animals has many benefits. Trans fats, rancid omega-6s, refined sugar carbs, those are really the culprits here. And remember that omega-3s are wonderful, but we have to use them